Hello, 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 hello. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Davon Williams, and this is the Receipts. And that is the paint spot that I can't seem to get rid of, but I digress. I want to give this welcome really quick because I want to get into what is a very fun and loaded show. We're streaming off of StreamYard. So if you can, make sure that you're logged in so that we can see your name because we will be taking questions today. You are actually a part of this, and I will explain how. This is every show I try to find a new angle, and this angle came at 4 in the morning. So I'm really excited to see how this turns out. But there's a couple of things, there's a reason that I've chosen a new format for this, is because in my research and in talking to people, I learned that not everyone fully understands the job of a casting director. And today, I want to fix that. So I think this is going to work. But before all that, on the Facebook page for the Receipts, yesterday I had released an article that was written by Forbes, pretty much pertaining to money for independent contractors, for artists, for small businesses. And I was like, you know what? Let me just try this out. I didn't even know it was there from the CARES Act. Filled it out, and today in my bank account was $1,000. And I say all that to say that there's relief out there for us. And one of the new things I want to add to the Receipts is making sure that all of us are aware of it. But I'm also asking that all of us do a better job of just sharing the information. And as things go and come my way, I will release more on the Facebook page. But yeah, there's relief out there. There's relief out there for a lot of us artists. I guess the best way to say it is like right now we have to acknowledge that we're going through a huge redistribution of wealth, of power, of ideals. And there's even a new standard being set morally as a nation, as a world. And quarantine has a lot of downsides, but I do think there's a lot of positive opportunities for change, and we should take advantage of it. If I'm being direct, I really think it's our time. And I'm probably going to say this 3 more shows after, but when quarantine happened, when George Floyd went down, again, I kept thinking like, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? And one of the things I remember doing is talking to my friends, like, I think I'm going to start a show and just really try and get out here and talk to these people who are perceived as power players. And they were like, but you don't have a following. You've spent majority of your 20s, like, playing on yachts and like doing shows here and there, and you haven't really invested in getting that following, and people only care about followings. And I think it's safe to say 4 shows in, that's not true. And I say that to say that if there's anything that you want to do or anything you feel compelled to do, this is the window. When we had the recession, when our 43rd president broke the world and our 44th president went to fix it, we had some of the biggest companies born out of that moment. And statistically, the facts are there. Whenever we're in a situation like this, the big businesses, the big artists, the people who maneuver and readjust and take the time to learn and grow and don't shut down during those moments, the people that lean in tend to yield major dividends down the line. So please, if you are feeling anything, and I'm seeing people every day doing ideas that just couldn't be fathomed January 2020, and they are taking off. So do it, dream. Okay, getting off my soapbox. Oh, and one last thing, because it's our time, it's also important that we use this time to arrest the officers who killed Breonna Taylor. All right, so I would like to introduce our panel one by one, and I would like to start by bringing out Joy Doing.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I'm doing okay today, hanging in there. I'm really grateful to be here. I'm really grateful to you for giving us this opportunity, for building this amazing thing that you've built, and also to our Black family in the theater and beyond for continuing to share your hearts and your knowledge and your experiences with us, even though I can't imagine how painful it must be. So just from my heart, thank you so much for for everything that you're doing for us right now. And Davon, thank you for offering this resource to us. This is really exciting. I agree with you. I think great things are difficult and great things are happening.
I have a question for you. What is the job of a casting director?
Great question. A casting director's job is to source and identify talent for a production and to present that talent to the production team, which usually consists of a director, producer, producing team. For musicals, there's a musical director and choreographer typically, plus associates, associate director, choreographer, etc., and to present the talent to them. And then once all talent has been presented, to facilitate a conversation to move the final casting decisions toward a place that best reflects the needs, best meets the needs of that production.
All right, I wanna. Could I get on stage, really quick? So On Stage blog set the actor groups on fire when they dropped this article written by Kim Carroll, which says live accompanist auditions are counterproductive gatekeeping and they need to end. Did you get a chance to see that article at all?
I did. I read it just this morning.
What are your thoughts?
I noted, first of all, that the author amended the title of the article to include the words community theater, that this was intended towards community theater. I don't really think it was necessary to do that. I don't think it makes any difference or should make any difference. Mm-hmm. I definitely appreciate the sentiment of the article, and I've thought about it a lot myself. And I've explored different ways to address the systemic inequality that comes along with asking performers to learn and prepare certain material. However, there are many advantages to having a live accompanist that you don't get with a track. And when it is appropriate to use a track, I've certainly used a track for auditions before, or I've used a combination when it was appropriate, when it was right for the material. But having a live accompanist it's simply not comparable. And every accompanist that I have hired in my career, I have taken steps to ensure that they are there to support the performer. I think the author has unfortunately had some bad experiences, as I did when I was a performer coming up in the business. I had some awful experience with accompanists. But the accompanist job is to support you. And I think that the author has received some bad advice about how to prepare for an audition. And there were some things when she read that that she wrote, that when I read them, I just wanted to just take her hand and say, girl, come on, let me help you with this. Like there are things that she talked about that are just totally unnecessary and counterproductive. So I think that relationship between the performer and the accompanist can be a magical collaboration, or it can be a disaster. And it depends on both on those two players meeting each other and respecting each other as artists.
Thank you, Joy. I'm going to pull you away for a second before we start the big panel, and I'm going to pull out Kate Lumpkin. Hi, Kate.
Pull me out like a rabbit out of the hat.
Yeah, well, everyone needs to see the iconic background. That's what I'm here for. I was going to lead with it, but I was like, no.
My laundry today.
How are you?
I'm doing okay today. It looks like it's about to pour down rain, but other than that, doing okay today. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to play.
Me too.
Of course, I'm going to ask you the same question. What is your interpretation of your job?
Yeah, I mean, I think Joy nailed it, right? Everything Joy said from a specific, in terms of the actual tasks of what the day-to-day job of a casting director and the overall theme is, Joy nailed it. I think the other thing that I would add, I think of myself as a professional creative connector, kind of in a woo-saw kind of way, in that my job is to meet and know artists and creative teams, understand what makes them tick, who they're going to work well with, what relationships might work, might not work, and be able to understand people both as artists and also on a human level, and try to make those connections. The thing about a connector is, of course, you can't say like, you have to do this, right? Like you have to be, connected forever to this person. But what you can do is try to bring together people in a space, in a safe creative space, and connect them and see how it works. So I think Joy really nailed it in terms of every step, but I think kind of looking overall, I feel like my job is to really understand and to get to know artists as humans, creative team members as humans, understand their skill sets, what makes them work, what they love. I call myself a theatrical anthropologist because I studied anthropology, so I look at my craft from that lens. And so I think I'm a community builder and someone who tries to figure out how small societies are going to work.
Awesome. I want to pull a question from the group.
Okay.
I want to pull a question from Victor E. Chan. Could I get, what measures are being taken to avoid box checking at auditions and callbacks?
So I'm assuming that by box checking we mean like, I'm assuming by box checking we mean that what you're saying is how do we make sure that we're not just making, this is tricky because I want to know exactly what Victor means by box checking. What I can say overall is that the audition process for every office is going to be different. There are rules and regulations that have been put in place by unions that have to be followed. But in terms of what happens in an audition room during an audition process, the reason that casting directors are hired is lots of different things, including their aesthetic, how they move in the space, how they talk to people, and what their process looks like, right? So in terms of what's happening in all offices to make sure box checking isn't happening, I can't speak for all offices. What I can speak for in my office is open communication, trying to ensure that real meaningful conversations are happening, not just auditions, but conversations about the world, conversations about how we talk to people, how we engage with other humans, and conversations about what the world actually looks like. And how to ensure that we are making that space a reality. We're talking about breakdown language. We're talking about words used in the space. We're talking about what bodies are already in the space when an auditioner walks in. Yes, and all of those kind of things. I don't know if I specifically answered the question based on what box ticking means, but that is what's happening in my office, and I can only speak to that experience.
I think Kate's answer, in the way she answered it, kind of leads to something else I want to point out. Kate, in researching you, I learned that you are a very likable casting director. And I think a lot of it is that you tend to do this thing where you'll listen, you'll break down. And I've noticed a lot that you don't assume. And I know that because I pulled a clip from your Facebook group called No Marking that I played last week. And there are incredible conversations coming out of that. And I would love for you just to share what inspired you to do that? Because I think that is so giving of your time, what you're doing on that platform. I remember looking because I was like, oh, let's just see what, when you're doing the casting director research, let's see what they have to say. And then I was blown away at what that content was.
Oh, hey, thanks. So specifically, you're talking about a roundtable panel that was happening in a group that I started, a school that I started called No Marking, which I started the day that Broadway decided it needed to shut down because of coronavirus. I thought, okay, there are going to be a lot of people, a lot of creatives from all different aspects of this craft, of this career, who are no longer going to have money for classes, who are going to need something to do in their apartments so that they're continuing to work on their craft. So I started the No Marking Society, also known as No Marking, which is an entirely free platform where there are classes on industry, wellness, and business classes for professionals over the age of 18 who identify as industry professionals who work in all aspects of theater. So we have an archive full of, I think, 130 free classes now, and we are continuing to do those classes every month with new teachers. And again, all the content is free because education is what creates opportunity, and not everyone has access to education. And when you make it so that education is available for all, opportunities follow, and then we see new people in new positions, and that is my goal with No Marking.
That's awesome. I'm going to let you go away for a little bit and then get some water, water the plant a little bit. And I'm going to bring out Michael Donovan.
Sir, how are you?
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Hi, everybody. just want to say this is great that you're doing this, buddy. It's really smart. It's an important time for us to be listening, to learn, to really open up the lines of communication. And this is a way of doing that where everybody gets to really get to communicate well in a very kind of less pressured situation. And we're sort of a level playing field, which is nice.
All right. Casting director Michael Donovan, if I were to call you casting agent,
I would go.
Why?
Okay, it's left over from like the 50s. I think they used to call us casting agents around that time, and we're not agents. You guys know there are agents and there are casting directors, and they're completely different things. You have an agent represents you as a performer. A casting director, we direct the casting, and boy, did Joy do a great job of explaining what we do for a living. But they're vastly different things. They're two different terms. Don't ever call a casting director a casting agent. They'll bite your head off.
So we talk about what you're doing in the world of education.
Sure. You guys may know I teach for UCLA, and I was teaching the last live class at UCLA when everything went down. So it was very interesting. And these, of course, were in that particular class was musical theater performers. So this was and they're seniors in their senior year, and they're just about to graduate and, just about to meet all these agents. And so it was a huge adjustment. And I also direct the showcase for UCLA. So we moved it online. So we were really a part of the first, how do you do this? How do you move everything online? And it actually went okay. The interesting thing about this format is that you don't have to get dressed and go, so you can just watch it in your pajamas. So actually, I think it may get a bigger response than actually sitting at a theater, which is ironic. And then that has led to other things too. I'm doing several free classes. I did a couple other showcases. We did a thing. I'm president of the Foundation of New American Musicals, and so we are always doing new things through that. And there are classes through that, and we do programs where we teach kids who are sort of underserved and kind of not so great parts of Los Angeles where there's no funding for the arts. And so we go in and we actually teach them how to write a musical, which is kind of fun. So,
any musicals we should look out for?
They're all brand new, so we'll see, but there are, I have to say, just how creative these kids are. It's just extraordinary. And just writing from their own experiences, some of which are just heartbreaking. And they're like 95% kids of color. So there are new voices, which is great, and unique voices. And it's very exciting to see what they have to say. So.
When it comes to education in the world of theater, musical theater, and things like that, what I find is that there's a lot of attention put on the craft, but you're not really taught how to package and sell and maneuver the business aspect. How do we find that balance?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I teach. I'm like, you are running a business, and you have to think of it that way. You are the CEO of this business. You are the main commodity of this business. So how do you market it? How do you market to the buyer? I'm the buyer, essentially. So how do you make sure that I know your product is available, that your product is up to date, that your tools that you have represent you fairly? If your picture is 5 years old, it doesn't do me any good. If your picture doesn't look like you, it doesn't do me any good. If your credits are not up to date, if your credits have lies on them, all of those things, it is your job to figure out how to market this product that you have. And it's different for everybody. It depends on this is where we get into, I'm not sure which field we're going to talk about. So it'd be different for the different fields. Yeah. But I think if you think of yourself, and this is hard to do because I was a performer for a long time. It's hard to sort of divorce yourself from that. But as a entity, as a product, that, what do you have? What do you offer to the industry? And figure out a way to make sure that we know it's available and that you are around. Being in touch once with us is not sufficient. Mm-hmm. It's very egotistical to think that, well, I met them once, so they know. You have to understand the numbers that we deal with sometimes are just staggering. Thousands and thousands of people who want to be in with the projects that we're doing. So it's hard to remember every single person every time. So if you make sure that you are in that mix every time, then it's obviously the smart move.
I've heard people talk about postcards. I've heard people talk about sending other things, emails and things like that. And then I counted up the cost. And now my question is, for people who are underserved and stuff like that, what are some easy ways that are cost efficient and really breaks through that classism barrier?
Okay. Well, first of all, it's going to depend on every office. Some offices hate postcards. Some offices hate emails. So you're going to have to do your individual research to find out what each individual office wants. And you don't want to piss the office off. I will tell you that what has come full circle is regular mail. I'm sure the panelists will agree with me that in the past, until everything sort of moved online, we would get these buckets of mail every single day with crazy amounts of mail every single day. Now, regular mail has crawled down to, I don't know, maybe I get 24 pieces of mail a week. So now we read them. So that's the thing. It's hard to ignore a couple of dozen pieces of mail. Other casting offices, I know, they used to take the whole thing and just dump it in the garbage because it was just overwhelming to go through it in the past. And now that's changed. So I think, postcards are not a bad idea. At least I like them. I think they also kind of remind me that, what you look like. And it's like, even if I can't get to see what you're in, I can't see the TV show you're in, it tells me that you're serious. It tells me that you are doing your craft. And I think the picture being there also reminds you who this person is. It attaches the picture with the name. In our heads, we have this very weird filing cabinet that we all have up here. And so I think it's a great idea. I think we talked a little bit, you and I, on the phone about open calls. If you want to talk about that, that's a real way to get out there. Do you want to do that now?
But I'm saving it for a little bit later.
But that's a freeway.
That's going to be, I think it's going to take off when we talk about open calls for a little bit.
Okay, great.
But we do have a trend alert. We have our first trend alert. Please aggressively mail Michael postcards. We know he's home. Mail him right now. Do it while you're listening.
Postcards are coming my way as we speak.
Take a break. Find some mail. And I am going to bring out our last casting director, Laura Stancic. Hello.
Hi, darling.
How are you?
How are you? I'm good. Thank you very much.
How's Maine?
Maine is gorgeous and restful and restorative.
So I think we've pretty much covered the role of a casting director. I would love to talk about what are some of your proudest accomplishments through this journey of casting and producing. I'm going to throw that out there as well.
Well, I mean, I imagine that everybody, the other panelists would agree with me. What makes one proudest about casting is discovering someone who has incredible talent and giving them a leg up, introducing them to the right people, and creating work that is meaningful. Creating work. I mean, one of the reasons this pandemic was just, and the timing of it was just appalling, was the number of things that were about to open. I had Claudia Rankine's play Help at the Shed, which was gorgeous. It was amazing. And it was about white male privilege. And you couldn't have picked a better moment in time. And gone. Nathan Allen Davis's The Refuge plays, which, and a lot of times I think that actors don't understand how long we work on these shows. Help came together very quickly, but for instance, The Refuge plays, which is a trio of plays, that's 4 or 5 years in the making. And to finally have that company come together and to feel like it lives and it breathes and it actually reflects the author's intent and the director's intent is tremendously satisfying. And, back to Michael's point about casting agency versus casting director, I think one of the reasons a casting agent is kind of insulting to us is that it eliminates any sense of creativity. We really think about what we do, or at least I do. And most of the people I know in the industry do. We really think about what talent is there and what supports the material, and how somebody's particular skill set adds to that mix. And to have a collaborative experience where you're able to actually really impact the final product is tremendously satisfying. As far as producing, it's a completely different thing because you start with it, you gestate it. It's generally your idea. It's tremendously more frustrating because you have to raise an enormous amount of money to make those, to make that stuff happen and come true. And it's depending on how you're doing it and where you're doing it, it's not easy. Yeah. To be hired to do something, to be hired to bring this group of people to the attention of the right creatives and to create this project, that's easier in certain cases. The other thing that I think that, and Joy did a great job of describing the process, but the other thing that we also do is we facilitate between agents who generally don't want their clients to do certain things because if they're not terribly remunerative, they don't want them on stage. And what I do is primarily theater. So, 90% of my work is theatrical. And, to get an agent, to persuade an agent that this project is worth this actor's time, that these connections, that this experience is something they should allow their client to do is important. And, Joy did get into the other idea, which is having presented people. And sometimes it's not via auditions. A lot of things, particularly right now, are done by offers. And to try and educate your creative team and persuade them that they should trust this particular performer or trust us that this particular performer is the right guy. So it's a lot of communication, and it's a lot of seeing theater. It's a lot of seeing film, a lot of seeing television, and understanding the breadth of work that's out there.
How much thought, energy, strategic marketing goes into securing a contract as a casting director?
Probably more than I put into it at this point in my life. I know other people out there who are probably making a lot more money than I am, work very hard at getting contracts and nailing contracts. I tend to rely on my relationships and staying in touch with people and, theaters and individuals and directors with whom I have done a lot. I'm very, very forward about reaching out to creatives when I've seen their work, when I see something that moves me, about letting them know that it moves me and I want to work with them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's important for me because I don't want to do work I'm not invested in at this point. I want to work on material that moves me and that I think is important and that adds to the collective, and to work with people who I think are invested in the same thing.
I'm going to let you take a break and we're going to get this game started. So let me direct address. I know you all are like, wait a minute, he was an actor a little bit ago and now what is CSA? What is that about? So that's kind of a lead into our game. I have realized that there isn't enough diversity when it comes to the world of casting. And in this game, I am going to throw myself in the ring. I have opened a casting office. The name of the casting office is Day Day Casting. Day Day Casting is up and running. We have a contract. There's a lot of things going on. However, I am very new. The people I just spoke to are actually dear friends. So I'm going to let you all know, I need you to pretend that we've known each other for a very long time casting and that we're very dear friends, because I have called on these other casting directors to help me in my time of need. I'll explain a little bit more. Let's bring everyone back out.
I'm looking at these comments. I think you need to make it very clear that you actually haven't opened a casting.
Right.
In the comments.
We are not dealing with a real casting agency. I am trolling all of you, but until this is over, we are definitely playing. In the next hour, it is happening. Here are my friends who have come to help me. Everyone that is in the comment section right now, you are my casting associates, and this is the game.
Hey, just before we start,
Yes.
how do I get the comment section up?
Yeah, I don't see it either.
So there's some on Facebook, there's some on YouTube. If you're on your laptop, essentially just going to your phone because the comments are off within our StreamYard. That way we can just stay a little bit focused. But yeah, if you want, there is someone there navigating and throwing questions around. If you were like,
People are so mad at you, my love. People are so mad.
They'll appreciate it. This is going to be really fun. But look at, like, guys, why are you mad? You're hired. You have a casting associate job right now. Let's get to work. And this is the job. It's 2021. COVID is over. Let's pretend. Let's not talk about the reality. But in an effort to bring more BIPOC, that's going to take some work getting used to, but I'm so happy it exists. Representation to the forefront, I launched the Day Casting Office. Now, they come, they need, they love us. That is the catchphrase. And you all are hired. And I want to thank you, friends, for being here and helping me cast this project. Now, Day Casting is best known for Set It Off the musical, Surviving R. Kelly the musical, and the runaway hit Paula Deen and the Racist Machine comedy. It was incredible. The 11 o'clock number, mwah. I've never heard the N-word so much. Setbacks. I may have invested in stocks that all flopped due to bad advice and because of the volatile market. I may have called Scott Rudin and left a message. I may have said, leave them other casting curse word alone and bring them white dollars to the winning team. I may have said that. I may have a drinking problem and I may be hungover right now. That is me as a casting director right now. Also,
sounds accurate.
What'd you say?
Sounds accurate.
It sounds about right. Now the pressure gets to me. We may be in danger, as in Day Casting may be in danger because the Casting Society of America, which as you can see, I'm a member, is threatening to kick us out due to questionable casting practices.
Yeah.
And without some new major wins, I need some wins. I need this contract that just came in. We will close. And America will lose their biggest BIPOC casting director of all time. I need all four of you to help me do this for the culture, okay? This is very important.
We got you.
Avengers Assemble.
Thank you. This is the Avengers. This is the casting Avengers. I'm casting director giant Davon Williams, and today we are playing How to Get Away with Casting. This is the game, okay? Woo-hoo! So, I've called you all here today because this is the mission. Our agency has landed a contract. I want you to meet the newest Broadway producer, Michelle Obama. Can I get the producer picture, please? She's right there in blue, ready to bring it in. Could I get Michelle Obama? The second one. Now, this is what inspired her. She was doing her book tour, Becoming. And these are two quotes from her book. So many of us go through life with our stories hidden, feeling ashamed or afraid when our whole truth doesn't live up to some established ideal. The second quote is, now I think it's one of the most useless questions an adult can ask a child. What do you want to be when you grow up? As if growing up is finite. As if at some point you become something and that's the end. When she said that, someone was sitting in the audience and they're like, oh, that reminds me so much of Children Will Listen. And she goes, what's Children Will Listen? She looks it up, she finds the show, and she goes, my God, it's beautiful and it's so timely. I want to do a revival of Into the Woods.
Okay.
She cast her director. The director we'll be working with is J.J. Abrams. Can we get a picture of J.J. Abrams? J.J. Abrams, director. There he is, judging us with his eyes. Okay. Now, the show is practically cast. It's practically cast, but we lost our witch. The witch for this revival was Audra McDonald. She has found another project, and she has left us to do the new musical, Tyler Perry Presents The Persecution of Candace Owens. We can't compete. We've lost her to the Candace Owens musical. So we got to find a replacement ASAP. And again and again and again, I need I need your help because I need this contract to keep my office alive and to keep the culture going and growing. Today, we have 55 minutes to to find 3 people to bring to the official callback. As you know, Michelle Obama is very busy. She can only see 3 people, so we're going to wheedle out the competition and pick 3 people for her to see tomorrow.
Is this a Broadway show?
I'm sorry?
Is it a Broadway show?
This is going to Broadway. It's the Broadway revival of
Okay.
Into the Woods because we haven't had enough of it. Yeah.
All right.
We haven't had enough.
We haven't had enough. It's my birth year musical, so it's very dear to me. 7 auditioners are scheduled right now, and again, we only have 3 slots, so we're really gonna have to get this together. Okay. Let's start the auditions. Can I get the breakdown? Here we go. So key information: the character, the witch, show, Into the Woods, gender, female, age range, adult, mature adult, role size, lead. Dancing, non-dancer. Voice, mezzo-soprano. Highest note, F5, low note, F3. Technique, belting, legit. Sure, let's just throw it all in there. Time and place, a fairy tale kingdom, the woods. And tags, these are the words that came out of Michelle Obama's mouth. She said, Sondheim. She said, fairy tale. I want it to be magical. I want people to understand the danger of the curse. I want them to feel what it feels like to be a mother trying to connect with their child, a protector. I want them to understand the wisdom that comes with age. I want them to understand our capitalist society with greed. And I want them to understand death. This is what we have to cast today. Before we start, do we have any questions? Again, friends, thank you for coming on board and helping me while I try to sober up. My God.
I got a question.
Yes, Kate.
Oh, Joy had her hand up first. You go, Joy.
I'm sorry, Joy. Thank you. You're so fair.
That's okay. Thank you, Kate. Can we talk about that breakdown for a second? I think you and I are probably on the same wavelength, Kate. Can we talk about the specifying of the gender?
Why?
Is it necessary that we specify a gender? And if so, why are we specifying that as female? Are we talking about the character is female? Or are we talking about the actors who are going to play the role? You're only looking for female actors.
When I spoke to our forever First Lady, it was very clear that she wanted to know more about the idea of being a mother. She really wanted to express the themes that come with that. Okay. Now, I believe the character has to be female, but I'm assuming that there is a window for someone who is presenting.
Right. I would think, especially with that character, get away with it. Has it ever been played by somebody who's not female?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Kate, do you know when that took place or when that happened?
Yeah, so Kilgore just did it, and Billy Porter has done it.
Oh, Billy Porter did it, yeah. Exactly, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to pause you all. I'm sorry.
Hang on. One more question here. I mean, you use the word audition. So I'm just going to suggest that if we're looking for somebody of Audra McDonald's caliber, that is never happening.
Yeah, we have to let that go.
Yeah, not a chance. It's not going to happen.
Right.
I accept the things I cannot change. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
If you're talking about finding somebody, who the world doesn't know yet, that's a different story.
But we're talking about Broadway and The Witch, I don't see how. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't see how an unknown works here.
I agree, especially in that role, that size of that role. So
all right, I'm gonna pause us. We have our first person coming into the room. Could I get Ada Vox? Ada Vox. Could you all hear Ada?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was just me. It was just me. Good.
Loud and clear.
All right, great. Thank you, Ada. Have a good day. We'll contact you. What do we think of Ada? Ada Vox.
Great voice.
Fierce.
She's a remarkable voice, but how do you judge whether or not she can act the role and bring all of those elements that you're talking about without an audition or a work session?
Right.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Laura, I went out last night. I drank. I was trying to woo another contract. This is what we have. We got to kind of work with what we have, Laura. So is there anything there that kind of stood out to you?
She's an amazing voice, and she can certainly, and she can hold the stage. That's clear.
Mm-hmm.
She has presence. That's clear.
But if they're advising you, we're going to tell you that's how you're going to lose your contract if you're
That's how
insisting.
I'm going to lose it? What do you mean?
Because she's not a big enough name, period.
All
Well,
right.
So
And
this
you
kind of a role in this kind of a production, it won't happen. She would be a replacement. She could be a cover. She could be a lot of things. She's the touring show, things like that. But fresh out of the box, a Broadway show produced by Michelle Obama.
Well, is Michelle Obama and J.J. Abrams enough? Like, are they enough to carry the name of a pretty popular revival?
Michelle Obama's enough to carry anything.
Yeah.
Who else is on the show?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's great. So the Baker is being reprised by James Corden. James Corden is coming back to reprise the role of the Baker.
See, that makes a big difference.
Different, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Who else?
There are questions you can ask along the way. Don't worry. Okay. It's more just I want people to see the idea of like questioning and figuring things out. So you're doing it. You're killing
So
it.
if we're going to schedule a work session for Ada Vox, I would want to know more about her. Ada's a drag queen, right?
It is drag queen, yes.
So do you know the name of the real name of the
His name is
performer?
Adam.
Adam. Okay. So can we find out what Adam's experience is like as an actor, if he has any acting training or experience?
Mm.
And I think we'll want to set up a work session, at least with a music director and with JJ, to explore whether Ada has the chops to really get into a dramatic role.
Oh, I'm so sorry to pause you. We have our second auditioner coming in. Are we all ready?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, great. We're going to get right back to you, Laura. We have Alexandra Billings.
Oh.
Feel free to come on out. All right.
Whatever makes you happy.
I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I just got an announcement from someone else, which we can deal with, but I know you all saw it. What do you think?
I think we need to have a talk about what's happening in your office.
I think so too, yeah.
I'm under a lot of stress. I love all of you. Please help me. That's all I need.
I think Alexandra is great. I think that becomes more of a possibility for me because I think people sort of know about this performer, and I think it's a intriguing role for Alexandra to play. So
We
I
also
need to know who else is in the show, though. That's bugging me. Besides James Corden, it really makes a difference. Who
we
else
also
do we?
know that Alexandra can do an 8-show week. Yes, we all kind of had a conversation before about needing to know people's acting abilities and their abilities for the stamina. And Alex, we know, can do an 8-show week. So that's also helpful in this moment.
Absolutely.
The
Laura,
Baker.
you want to say something?
Yes.
Well,
So-
I kind of think rather than taking these piecemeal, what I would recommend is making a short list of your dream ideas. You know, who do you and who do you want to see this play this role, and who's earned it, which is the other thing. I mean, if it's Michelle Obama and J.J. Abrams and James Corden, you know, you've got to have somebody who's going to be in that world, which is why Audra made a lot of sense.
Right.
So the question, question, the question becomes: is it Tanya Pinkins? I mean, who's going to stand up to them?
I would love for it to be Tanya Pinkins, Laura, but Tanya Pinkins is already cast as the baker's wife.
Well, see, now that's why you have to tell us this.
That's what you have to tell us.
I was waiting for it to be asked. Okay,
no, I'm just
I just did. Who else is in the show?
So we do have
no harm to talk to Tanya, baby, but I will say that she and James Corden are not generationally exact.
Not at all. That's
you caught it.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
You caught it. So we do have some generational issues, and we're working it out. We're trying to figure it out. We also have a bit of a newcomer playing Jack named Brett Gray. He's currently on a Netflix show that's pretty popular. That's our Jack. Wonderful singer, was in Secret Life of Bees.
Yeah.
And those are the 3 confirmed names, and we're kind of building around that.
What I would suggest, this is me, if I knew you had Tanya Pinkins already, I'd move her over to the role and replace the baker's wife. That's what I would do immediately.
Somebody who's a more appropriate age. I mean, let's talk about Cynthia Erivo, right? Let's talk about. I mean, she and Corden make a very good match.
Sure. Or Jennifer Holiday age, something that's a little bit more appropriate.
Let's vote it right now then. All in favor of me proposing to Michelle Obama that we have her consider moving Tanya Pinkins over and us putting our attention on the baker's wife, just raise your hand.
It's an idea, but I wouldn't want it to be the only idea. We have to build a short little list. And this should, here's the other question.
Yeah.
Who's the muscle, Davon? Who's making the decisions? Is it Michelle Obama first, or is it J.J. Abrams first? Do they consider everything together? Do you start with J.J. and then do you go to Michelle, or do you start with Michelle and then go to J.J.?
How do you normally navigate that when you're dealing with your projects?
You got to know who's the muscle. So, for instance, on it really varies. So when I was doing Sideshow with Bill Condon was the muscle. That's where we start. Right? The Kennedy Center was the producer, but it was Bill, right? If you want to flip it and you have your dear friend Scott Rudin.
Yes, we're working on our relationship as we speak.
That's who the muscle is. Okay, but that's Scott's the muscle in that scenario.
Yeah.
So who's actually which path are you following?
Right now,
who's the first?
Who has the final say? Yeah.
I have that the head is Michelle Obama. We all work for our wonderful leader and producer through all of this. We have given her the reins to make the final call on casting. JJ is also busy on 3 other projects, which is a lot less than normal. Normally it's like 10 or something all at one time. So he's allowed Michelle to pick the cast, and he will work with whoever. He's very giving director.
So are these Michelle's ideas that you're presenting to us now, or are they your ideas?
These are the people I've brought in, but Michelle said that she may text us a little bit later to introduce 2 friends who may come through an audition.
Can I address one thing in this?
Yes.
I just saw a comment that says, where did it go? That it was a little disheartening to hear this as someone who's not a name at this point, to hear what's happening in this process. Can I just honor that this is a very specific type of process we're talking about right now? This is a very specific moment, very specific producers, a very specific role in a very iconic show. So for people who maybe are not at this place, who are not Cynthia Erivo or working one-on-one with Michelle Obama, this conversation might look different and does look different for different levels and different types of shows. So please don't be disheartened that this is the only way that casting happens and the only kind of conversations. I just wanted to interject that.
That's a great
I love that. I want to jump in here too, because I love that you said that. And for me, this is the least interesting part of my job.
Me too.
The star thing is like, whatever. Okay, great. We'll find somebody. We'll get somebody done. The interesting thing is finding that kid out of, Carnegie Mellon or USC or someplace and go, oh my God, this kid's amazing. And I get to bring him in and he gets to play Jack, who's never done a Broadway show, who's like, that's the exciting part about it. So that's what I'm passionate about as a casting director.
How often do you get to do that, Michael?
The process. It's not that it's not exciting to put Audra McDonald or Jennifer Hudson or somebody in your show, but this is a small part of what we do, and it is not representative of what I think our daily lives are.
Although it takes up an inordinate amount of time.
It does.
Because Chasing Stars is hard work.
It's a pain in the ass.
But Davon, do you mind if I just circle back to one thing and to what Kate was saying? One of the ways, and back to something earlier, a free way to get under my nose, to get to see us. If you're a member of the union, and even if you're not, right? Know what we're casting. Look on breakdowns, find a way to get to the breakdowns, right? And then send us a specific letter or submission for that project. And if it's a union project and a regional theater has hired us to cast in New York or LA, we have to see self-submissions. We have to see at least 5 people that come to us in the mail or through email, or Equity will grind our bones to dust. So we have to do that. And that's the best way. And if I get a resume and a letter about why you're right from something, I'm taking it very seriously, and I see you. And I see you work. It's a lot more than a postcard.
Work.
I think it also speaks to, Laura, if I may, that then you are aware of what we are doing. You expect us to want to know all about you.
Yeah.
You just need to know about us. What are we working on, so that you're not just doing some blind submission for something that there's nothing that we're doing that's you're remotely right for. So I think
I'm so sorry to cut you off. We just
bet there's another.
We got a text from Michelle Obama.
You were saying something. No, I have to deal with a problem really quick. I have David Capareliotis of CSA.
Yes.
He just called me out. I'm looking. He just sent the video. Can you play the video, please?
Oh no.
Or not.
Here, I might have labeled
Really good so far.
Name. Oh, sure, no problem. So the name we are looking for. Wow, I'm a drunk, guys. Casting roster here. That's what he wants to call me out on. Can we?
So we as casting directors need to educate ourselves about who is out there, learn more about you, what you're capable of, so that we can then incorporate you into the roster of actors that we are bringing forth to creative teams, right? So that's where we're coming from.
Okay, so David just called me out for saying that my roster isn't diverse enough. How do I go about finding more diversity? Because clearly the tools that I'm using, the open calls I'm using aren't working. The language that I'm using isn't working. How do I adjust that and meet people where they are?
Well, I mean, right now it's harder. I would generally have said, go to the theater, see work in every possible venue. And at the moment that's a little tricky. But viewing everything, viewing every tape, and right now, as tape comes in, and you can, Davon, if you can't have an open call, you can definitely put something out there on Breakdown that's for Actors Access.
Yep.
Says and solicit people of color, actors of color, any specific thing that you want, and the tapes will flow in. You're going to have to do some work. You got to get them the sides. You know that, right? So you got to get them the sides. You got to get them the material, and then you have to watch. And then you really, really do have to watch them. And sometimes that's a real joy because you find some really fantastic people.
Absolutely. I put almost everything on Actors Access. I want that actor that maybe, like you said, I think, Laura, before, that the agent doesn't really want them to do theater because the money is, doo-doo. But I want to find those new faces too. So it's very important. So, and that's our job.
Right now, those showcases are gold because they're all digitized.
Yep.
So, but I kind of want to address people who haven't had a chance just out of school, because I mean, certainly that wasn't the way I got into the business because I was late. I did other things. I don't know about you, Kate. I don't know what you did. I was in political science. I worked in DC. It's bad.
I worked in ethnographic anthropology.
Right. So, so there are a lot of people out there who are incredibly talented who miss that opportunity of nailing an agent just out of school, either because it just doesn't happen, because they have to change, but there are, or they just come from a different place. So Actors Access is super helpful.
Yep.
You just get yourself out there and submit.
Is Actors Access your primary go-to? Do you ever go to like casting breakdowns, backstage? What's your primary focus?
I think
Depends on the project.
Yeah, and it depends on how deep you're looking.
Yeah.
I'm about to embark on something where I'm reaching out to dance schools. I'm reaching out to, I'm reaching out to community centers. because it's very specific, and what I need is not, we just don't have the deepest identifiable pool of actors in New York who can fit this particular thing.
The other truth, the very free Actors Access is something like Instagram, is social media. And that is something I can only speak for myself, but I know a lot of other people use as a tool to find new talent. So I am at a different level. I'm very proud of my career, but clearly looking around this panel, I am surrounded by people who've been doing this and have incredible resumes. I work on a lot of things that are smaller projects that are labs, workshops, new works. I do a lot of non-union work as well. And when you're looking for a new pool of talent, really fresh, really new talent, using tools like Instagram, especially if it's very, very specific, like Laura was saying, searching through hashtags, trying to find jazz musicians who can also do crazy choreography and sing 6-part harmony. That was something I did recently, and trying to follow the trail of the hashtags. I love getting swept up in an Instagram tornado and going from one person to the next person to the next person, finding talent through different free resources as well. Instagram is a beautiful digital dossier that you have in the palm of your hand that costs nothing for you to be able to share your gifts.
I am so sorry to do this to you because you are breaking it down. We have 3 people who just arrived. I believe we have some new faces. We have and Michelle Obama's just responded. We can audition for Baker's Wife. We are shifting. She feels that we've laid out a very good argument and that she was just very excited to get Tanya in there. Tanya was like, you know what? I love the Baker's Wife, but she has spoken to Tanya, and Tanya has graciously said, I will slay the witch, I guess. We have Jessica Crouch, Christina Bianco, and Nova Payton. Jessica, how are you? Give us what.
It's all eyes to midnight. It's all eyes first. Now before it's past to midnight, I'm leaving you my last curse. I'm leaving you alone. You can tend the garden as yours, separate and alone. Everybody down on all fours. All right, mother, when lost to beats again, punch me the way you did then. Give me claws and a hunch just away from this bunch and the gloom and the doom and the boom.
All right, we're just gonna keep it moving, okay? Can I see Christina?
Right.
Thank you, Christina.
Oh, here you want a bean, have another bean. Beans are made for making you rich. The land that they saw, here you want some more. Listen to the roar, giants by the score, when you can blame it on the witch. It's the last midnight, it's the last verse. Now before it's past midnight, I'm leaving you my last curse. I'm leaving you alone. You can tend the garden as yours, separate and alone. Everybody down on the boards, all right for the win. Lost the beats again. Punish me the way you did then. Give me claws and the hunch. Let's away from this bunch and the gloom and the doom and the boom.
Okay, I'm gonna pause Nova really quick. How do we tell them that this role is cast?
The Baker's Wife?
No, the witch.
Well,
And they've come in originally.
They've come in for the witch.
Totally okay.
So you just say to you say to them directly and say, look, it was Tanya Jenkins.
Yeah.
But we want to see you for the Baker's Wife, because they are 2 very different roles, Davon.
Yeah.
You know,
And your
And,
audition was
you
very
know,
impressive as the witch, and we'd like to see you in the other role. no problem.
Yeah,
then
and I know
the actor to say, I only wanted to do the witch, whatever. But yeah, no.
Okay,
Are we
great.
interested, Davon, now that we're casting the baker's wife and we know
Yeah.
who the witch is going to be, are we still interested in exploring these two performers for the baker's wife?
I would love to keep everyone on this list as an option. Once we go through everyone, we can recap and see who's adjusting to this situation or who we think would best represent. Only because, again, we're pressed for time. We have to do a replacement. I need this contract. I gave Nova some time to switch out her song, so she's not going to do Last Midnight. She has prepared something else. Nova, please come in.
I do not like you or your brother. I do not like the life I live, but I am me. I am Aldonza, and what I give, I choose. One pair of arms is like another. It's all the same. It's all the same.
Okay. This is a lot. We were gonna have a discussion here, but Michelle Obama called and she got one of her friends to come in. So she's saying, just hear her out. Let's see what's going on. It's very last minute. She was in the parking lot, believe it or not. So she has decided to come in. Can we please listen to Cynthia?
Miracles for you and the blade of corn, like a honeybee. Yeah. Oh, a part of me, yeah, like the color purple. Where do we come from? My eyes are open. Look what God has done.
I want to send her
good
home.
isolated vocal.
I want to send her home.
I don't know about her. You know, she's just okay.
There's no. She didn't bring sheet music. She didn't do that. I think it's unfair. What are your thoughts?
In one thing in earnest, we just watched 6 clips of people singing. That is truly a gift of a job. That is a part of what we get to do when we're not making these lists of celebrities and playing the puzzle game. That is something that we get to do with our life, and it's just such a privilege. I know that sounds corny, but it is so wonderful to get to do that. To get to see people like Cynthia sing in a private, small space is just such a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. To sit there in a live audition and have people sing to you all day long with these stunningly beautiful voices, you laugh, you cry, it's an amazing experience. It's really a joy.
But I want to save Davon's casting agency.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Circle back.
So
Going back,
it seems to me the problem is that unfortunately none of these clips show wit, and they're not clips designed for the baker's wife.
Yes.
So
Right.
you kind of need to do another round, although you don't. I mean, for instance, like Christina and Nova, I know incredibly well.
Yes.
Right. And obviously, I think we all know Cynthia well.
Right.
And a lot of times, the way we make decisions is based on the history of the work for the people that we know, right?
And that gets us to that moment. I'm going to frame this question for you. Let's say people come in, they don't have a good audition. You have people who, again, we want sheet music. They're coming in, they're singing a cappella, and we know how we feel when people aren't doing that. But you can't deny the talent. So in these situations where you have a relationship with this person, one, how important is the relationship that's been established? And two, how important is the past body of work when they aren't putting their best foot forward in the room?
It's huge. We can say she's off today. You should look at her again. That's all.
Yeah.
I've worked with her 7 times. Like you just said, Laura, you know Nova and Christina. Like you could talk about your history with them immediately. That's what we do. Yeah.
And the thing is that, for instance, with somebody like Cynthia Erivo, the past body of work that's kind of all you need. That's why that's an offer, and you don't ask that woman to audition anymore.
Right.
If you saw her in Color Purple, you go, oh wow, now it doesn't mean she's exactly with James Corden. Is that a match?
Right.
Is that something? But she did Sister Act in the West End. So it's our job to understand the body of work and be able to bring that up to a director and say, hey, no, her Dolores was funny and it was light and it was witty and it was snappy, and that's the baker's wife. And with Nova, I can say, well, her Effie and Dreamgirls was moving, but it was also really funny. I mean, it's that body of work, that, hopefully we get to see, and then some of it speaks for itself.
And then you might get into things like chemistry reads. If you want to talk about chemistry reads at all, I mean, James Corden might insist on seeing who he's going to play with. Maybe he comes in and reads with her. There's
you do a table read of the whole show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think, Davon, there are two separate conversations going on here that have kind of gotten melded, and I think it would be productive to kind of tease them apart.
Go for it, Joey.
One is star casting, which is a completely different conversation than doing that sort of grassroots work of finding new and exciting talent and developing already existing talent who are working their way up through the business. Those are completely separate sides of the facets of a casting director's job. So if I could just jump back to your question earlier about diversifying your roster, which I wouldn't really use the word roster personally to describe it. It's really a pool, a never-ending, hopefully bottomless pool of beautiful talent. And the way to look at diversifying that here in 2021 is we have the gift of having all of these amazing new programs that took root after the pandemic or during the pandemic with all of this great work that we were doing. We have the Renegade Theater Company, which is specifically to nurture up-and-coming, unrepresented, disenfranchised talent, marginalized talent. We have so many new resources that came out of this painful period of time, and you're so lucky to be a casting director at this point in time because you can really go and meet all of this new talent that's being developed, and now we have this initiative that I just saw on Instagram that is for funding performers who can't afford $14,000 for one college audition and hiring audition coaches. So let's talk about how we can get you to tap into those resources to really start to rebuild the talent pool from the ground up.
Okay, I have a side project going right now, and I just need your help dealing with it really quick. TJ Dawson, who was on the show last week with 3D Theatricals, I sent him a list, and pretty much we're just trying to negotiate. He's just asked a question as casting directors for the shows that have long runs and have many replacements. For example, Wicked. Is it resistance from the creative teams to not deviate from the original cast? Why does it seem to be a constant search for the copy of who came before them? Why does it seem impossible to get a Black or any biopic in for Elphaba or Glinda? I'm going to fact check that really quick. Brittany Johnson doesn't exist, and she is fierce. So we are going to call that out. This is an example of nearly every show on Broadway. How do I respond to TJ and still secure this contract?
I think he's wrong. I think it depends on where the shows are being done. I mean, I've done several examples of where it was not the same race as the original. So, and I think, Joy, you've even done things where it's different gender, right? Evan, you play with that as well? Yeah. So I think that's a little old-fashioned.
All right.
Well, it's old-fashioned, but I think the question is out there for a reason because it did happen for many, many years, and it's only breaking out now. Everything's started breaking out after Hamilton, and shame on us for not standing up and doing more before. But it is, there are things that are changing. You look at the 1776, which is now gender and race fluid, and so things are changing.
And to say it's not wrong, I just, the one thing I want to pop in is we can say 2 names for the run of that show or 3 names.
Yeah, which is not enough.
Problematic, right? Like if we have to say, oh, no, Brittany's here. Like that is problematic in a show that's been on for 15 years.
I am so sorry to do this to you. And again, it's just how the business works. We lost James Corden.
No.
His show got canceled. His show got canceled on TV. He wants to take some time to revamp his life. Billy Porter has announced that he will step in as Baker. I didn't even get a chance to say anything about it. Tanya Pinkins has gone back to the Baker's wife. As frustrating as it is, I know this is a very crazy day. So we have Billy Porter, Baker. We have Tanya Pinkins, Baker, wife. Brett Gray is still there. Praise be. Oh my God. So again, we're going to have to look at everyone that we have so far and just make it work. We have someone who just got off the plane from the Philippines. We have Asia's songbird, Regine Velasquez. Okay, thank you. She is here. She has flown in for a little bit. We have her. She is from the Philippines. Now I know we've dealt with that with Lea Salonga, so we know there's a process and everything else. But I just want to remind you all that she is from another country. And this last person, our last auditioner of the day, we have Nathan Lee Graham, who has graced us.
It's the last midnight. It's the last verse. Now before it's past midnight, I'm giving you my last curse. I'm leaving you alone. You can tend the garden, it's yours. Separate and alone. Everybody down on all fours. All right, mama, when lost the bees again. Punish me the way you did then. Give me claws and a hunch. Just away from this bunch and the gloom and the doom and the boom.
Oh, I'm gonna be wearing that next show. I'm gonna get it on. Okay, so we've gotten our people in. I'm gonna give you all time just to think about who we should probably put in our top 3. We'll get back to that. But I want to get to a question that was just asked by Carrie Hart. Hey girl, how you doing? I don't know Carrie. How is it that an all-white Music Man is happening in this day and age?
Well,
Great question.
that's a very good question.
Seems almost impossible.
Yep.
Yep, that's the answer.
I don't think any of us have an answer for that. I mean,
Yep.
I think I can tell you what the marketing strategy is, which is that all of the principals have Tony Awards.
Sure.
And I think that that's a specific marketing tool. For me, it makes no sense. But
I would call it tone deaf. Completely tone deaf.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good question for the producers
I agree.
and the creative team.
I believe they've been asked it, and I believe that they will tell you that it will not be all white. That there will be many people in the chorus, and that there are many people in the supporting roles. But I think the optic is there, and it's disturbing.
I would like to thank Carrie Hart for bringing us into the next thing I want to talk about.
Into 2021?
I'm sorry?
Thank her for bringing us into 2021.
Into 2021, because this is what I want to talk about. I have a chance to steal a contract right now. Can I get Tootsie 1? Now, Tootsie went union. They had put offers, no hard contracts, and then they took them back. Can I get Tootsie 2? Then they put out this casting call, which then shifts and goes, people of color, people of color, people of color. Can I get Tootsie 3? Bender issues an apology. At the end of the apology, they say, then present a diverse range of talent, which has always been the mandate of the creative team, who were unaware the breakdown had been released. With that statement, who messed up?
Ooh.
Well, I think that, look, casting offices often they didn't vet it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they understood there was a world in which they were putting out, a strictly people of color breakdown would come back to bite them in the ass, but it did. And, they just didn't vet it with the creative team.
That's important to Davon, as a new casting director. Make sure you know what your relationship is with the guy who's paying or the woman who's paying your writing your checks.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes
they
back
want approval of breakdown before it goes out.
Mm-hmm.
and you need to know. I mean, you need to know how much trust Michelle has placed in you, and whether she really wants to see that kind of thing before it goes out. Some people really do.
How do you all establish trust?
How do you establish trust?
Yeah.
You earn it.
You earn it.
Yeah, you earn it, but also take the time to, I mean, she's a very busy woman, so this may not be possible. And with some producers, it's really not. And with some directors, it's really not. But if you have the opportunity to sit down with them and talk about their vision and not just get it over email, and, but also, Michelle Obama has assistants. You can ask those questions. How much does she want to see? What does she need to approve? How, what are the channels of approval?
Yeah, it depends.
Here's what I find very interesting about the Tootsie situation, which I think is here, I can just word it. My biggest concern is that it wasn't so much that they said people of color, people of color, people of color, but they took a union job, switched it to non-union, and then it appears to do damage control, offered less pay, a lack of health benefits to BIPOC bodies to act. How is that okay?
It's tone deaf. But by the way, the casting office is not responsible for table equity and non-equity. That's the producers. And so, and it wasn't thought out. I mean, the one thing that everybody should understand is that casting moves very fast, Davon. It moves fast because you've got a deadline, right? Mm-hmm. But you've got to put a big sign up that says wait, or that says breathe, so that you make sure you've got it right before you send it out into the world. Because once it's out, you can't pull it back.
We should kind of put in here that as casting directors, we do not have the final say in things, okay? In terms of who the cast ends up being, in terms of if you're switching from union to non-union, guys, that's all producer stuff. That's not us. So I just want you to be clear. Again, you brought that up before, Davon. You said when actors say to you, well, how come you didn't cast me in something? That's not our decision. Our job is to bring you in as a possibility into this and to influence the decisions that are being made, but not to have the final say. So I think that's important for people to understand that.
However,
I have a casting associate.
Can I say one thing really quickly, just about breakdown language? I do think, however, that we don't have agency in final decisions. We do have agency in conversations around breakdown language. And breakdown language is vital. It is so important. Words matter. How we address people, their bodies, their personhood, their identities, it matters. And the lack of respect that goes into some breakdowns that I've seen is astonishing to me in 2020, in 1990, in 1820, right? We have to think about the way we talk about humans, their identities, their bodies, and their personhood. And it is our responsibility as casting directors to have those conversations with creatives who are writing those first breakdowns that we then have access to before we release them, to honor what those words mean. We have agency in that piece of the process, and we need to own that, and we need to be better about it. It is something collectively as professionals we need to be better about.
Yeah, the one thing you don't want to do, Davon, is just send out a breakdown that was sent to you. You want to make sure you really vetted it, you've done the editing, you've done the appropriate changes, and so it goes out, because your name is on it as the casting director.
And also, you've got to understand, too, that creatives do not understand what Kate was just discussing.
Exactly.
I mean, they may understand sensitivities, but they don't understand how it gets out there into the world.
Mm.
And that's, I mean, it's a very particular and strange and unique part of the world, which, you know, even unless somebody's been a casting director, they don't understand it.
And it's getting tougher and tougher to do that because the general terms, you know, pretty, tall, whatever, it's like those are sort of like falling by the wayside now. I don't, you know, it's becoming tougher and tougher to say how to say what should be appropriate in a breakdown.
I have something from a casting assistant, Lauren. Lauren, where are you? It's about CDs throwing diversity under the bus. I'm going to paraphrase what she's saying. Could I get the final, I'm actually going to guide this a little bit. Could I get the final Hamilton clip? I believe that's where it is. Final Hamilton clip. Good. We have Maria Soma. Maria Soma, if you ever hear this, don't be afraid to text me and let me know if I'm saying your name correctly. I told Playbill.com, this is back 2016, 2015, Hamilton had put out a casting call. And then she says, all of our calls have the following language. Performers of all ethnic and racial backgrounds are encouraged to attend. And often this is used as a scapegoat to throwing diversity under the bus. Here's my question. Does this new mandate from Equity help or hurt?
I don't know that it's about the equity mandate. I think it's about how we put these philosophies of inclusive casting and representation into practice. So that if we're going to say that all ethnic and racial backgrounds are encouraged to attend, then we better back that up by casting people of all different with these racial backgrounds, levels of ability, different disabilities, sizes, shapes, everything. We better make the world on stage look like the world off stage. Because if we're going to ask people to come into the room and then not cast them, that's why people don't show up for auditions. That's why you have someone like this, I'm guessing an inexperienced casting director from Binder making such a mistake with that breakdown, is because they get so desperate to have people of color walk into the room, but they're not actually doing the work of going out and finding those people and then casting them so that they know they have a chance.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's true, but I would also say that, you know, I mean, it's disturbing that that language is needed. You know, one of the things, and these are conversations that I know I am gingerly, but forcefully having with my producers and my directors. And, you know, in the past, it's hard. You have to make judgment about how far you can go in a discussion with a director before you lose a job, you know, because there are oftentimes we're dealing with people who have very different ideas than we do and come from very different social and socio-political backgrounds, particularly if they're generations older than we are. But, you know, to gingerly have conversations about equality and not diversity. That's the one thing over the last several weeks that I have found incredibly useful and sort of mind-blowing, which is this idea of diversity is not actually helpful. It's about equality. For me, that's everything. That there needs to be equal representation, not only under the law, but under the whatever proscenium.
Can I talk about something I've been struggling with as a CSA, as a casting director? This is something I've been struggling with. Is implicit bias an asset in our field of casting? Like, without it, do we even have a job?
It is. You know, I had this conversation with Davon. I said, what we are paid to do is to discriminate, oddly, in terms of talent, abilities, and types, and open and figure out where people fit. That's kind of what we do. It's like it's a bizarre thing that we do, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's also important to be honest with actors. If we're not looking for all ethnicities or all types in certain roles, to say that, I think that's important to say this is specifically what we want for this role. Maybe there's a reason why it has to be Asian or it has to be whatever it is, you know. So I think that that's important. And the flip side of that too is that the example I gave him the other day on the phone about I was doing fences a couple of years ago, and Equity insisted that I put all ethnicities in the breakdown, and I said no. I said I won't do it, and they were like, "Oh, you have to." I said, "Well, I won't do it," and because it's ridiculous. It's an African American story written by an African American playwright about the African American experience. It's like it's ludicrous. So they finally backed down and let me put African American. So it's a. I don't think we've got this down yet, guys. I think this is part of what we have to figure out. You know, when is it appropriate to say we're open, and when is it to say we are not?
We talk about implicit bias. We already have so many strictures in casting the vast majority of roles that we're casting. To layer our own implicit bias into that is further restricting, and that's not in the best interest of the story that we're telling. So I think we have to continue to do the work to uncover that implicit bias within ourselves. We can't do the work for our creative team, but we can ask questions. We can ask probing, respectful questions about what the intent is and what this story is that we're really trying to tell, and who's the right person to tell that story.
I would again like to point out I kind of misrepresented someone on the YouTube. Her name wasn't Lauren, it was Laurent. Laurent is the person that asked the question. Thank you for the question, Laurent. I appreciate you. We have covered a lot, and now before I am no longer a casting director, I would love to hear your three choices. So let's do a standard ranking. Who's the first person you believe we should be bringing back in the room? We are now going to do a game of callback or fallback. Laura,
I gotta jump in.
Yes, do it.
You can't have Billy Porter as the baker. Sorry. I don't buy it.
I just want to keep my job. Why don't you buy it?
You're missing a huge opportunity. He should be in the other role. He should be the absolutely. And I think that's the biggest mistake here. I would replace James Corden. And you know that's what I would do. That's what do you guys think?
I have a question.
Yes, Joy.
Sorry. Are we looking at just a standard revival of Into the Woods? Are we looking more at a stripped down, gritty Oklahoma style?
Joy, I was thinking the same thing. What
it makes a huge difference.
We're looking at this world.
J.J. Abrams would like to bring his creative mind, the same mind that created Cloverfield, Lost, and the idea of spectacle and mystery to this musical classic.
So it's going to be big.
I'm sorry?
Is it on a spaceship? Right? J.J. Abrams works all over the place, right? In terms of time, space, the continuum of both. Where are we in this world? How does he want to populate this with the storytellers? What kind of storyteller is he looking for?
That's a great question. And my answer to that is yes. And that brings me to another question. How often do you find yourself having to dig those kind of questions out of your creative team?
A lot.
That's the first question.
Yeah. The first thing you do, you talk about how you see the show. Absolutely. And that's part of why you accept or don't accept the job too. If you guys are completely different, if they're seeing it from a very narrow perspective, and I'm probably not interested in doing the job. So.
And to be fair, that's also often why we're hired, right? Every casting director is known for the lens with which they approach work, the kind of work that's done. So, someone might come to me for something that, is different than what they come to everyone else for. So that's also part of that conversation before we're even hired is what are you actually looking for? Am I the right person for this job?
Kate, I'm going to ask for your name, just a name, Laura, then you, and then I'm going to go with Joy. One name.
Oh my goodness.
From the people we saw. It's
from
hard.
The people we've seen?
The people we've seen.
And we're back to the witch now, yes?
The witch.
We are back to the witch. I'm so sorry, Michael, but I will suggest Billy Porter. That is your choice.
Okay.
So go ahead, Kate.
Oh, no, Laura, you go.
Well, I'm just going to say, first of all, I would just say one of the things that I noticed, Davon, that you brought with a lot of these people is just big voice.
Yes.
And you're
Yes.
ignoring the witch is a very damaged character.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the witch that's got to be a great actor, far more than a great singer.
How often
And-
do you get that in the room where it's just people giving you big voice across the board?
Oh,
90
that's
point-
fine. It's called the wall of
99.9%.
sound. It's called the wall of sound, and it does not help you book a job. No, but for me, and can we run through the candidates again?
Unfortunately, I have lost my job because we are at 90 minutes.
Oh,
It has been great. Being a casting director was a dream job, but I will be going back to acting. Again, you all do it better than me. I've messed everything up.
Your job.
I want to thank you all for coming here to help me. Again, we did
I'm
not
not
win.
sure this
We
helped.
had a lot of issues to deal with. I'm so sorry. Thank you all. Stay in the
Hey,
waiting.
John.
Yes.
Tell her to call me.
And now I understand why we didn't make time. Now I see what happened here. Crabs in the barrel. Stick around in the waiting room. I'll talk to you all after. Stick around. I'll talk to you all after in the wait room. And for everyone that's watching, I am going to give one beautiful monologue to round all of this up. Arrest the cops. Arrest the cops. Arrest the cops that murdered Breonna Taylor. Have a good day. That's all.